What is up, Retromaniacs? Welcome to Short Prints, our short videos about random topics. And this week, we're going to talk about fantasy football and card collecting. Two subjects very close to both of our hearts as Joe is looking through his fantasy football index there. We're going to talk a little bit about the impact that fantasy football has on our collecting. Why don't we talk a little bit about how do you think the popularity of fantasy football impacts collecting in the hobby?
So I didn't actually collect football cards first. I collected Marvel and DC non-sports stuff. And it wasn't until 1996 when I started getting into football cards. And that coincides with the first year we did our home league, which famously EP has never won. 3 podcasts, we got that sucker in there. But I remember when after we drafted, I started like thinking, oh man, football's actually kind of cool. I'm going to start opening up cards and get into it. And again, I've told this story numerous times over the course of the pod, but my favorite day of the year, other than fantasy football draft for League One, was Halloween Parade. We put on a game. We'd have our lineup submitted because you had to have them submitted on Thursday nights. If there was a Thursday night game for the whole week, you couldn't make any adjustments. And we'd fire up the popcorn machine. I'd open up some Pinnacle and watch the Thursday night football game on TNT. So fantasy football is the reason I actually started collecting football cards in the first place. And it's one of the reasons that I started PCing Tom Brady cards.
I was collecting sports cards before I started playing fantasy, but like fantasy was one of those things that I heard about and thought was interesting. And it definitely drove me to, collect more than I would have probably without it, for sure.
Yeah. I collected a lot of players that I had on my fantasy teams, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but I found binders full of guys I used to have on my fantasy football team. And, obviously having a shop, it was a little easier for me, but again, we'll talk about this a little later, but I have one player in particular that every single card that came into my shop, I kept that card and I put it in a binder. And was definitely a big impact on my collecting. Back when you have a shop, it's kind of a little weird when you're talking about collecting because you're also selling. So like you can't just keep anything. My dogs are going crazy. My wife must be home. Sorry about that. But yeah, and I'm the one talking, so I can't mute. But So when you're talking about a PC when you own a shop, it's really kind of a weird thing because it wasn't easy to do.
It's a tough give and take.
It really was. So I really think fantasy football was really the beginning of any of my PC collections.
And when I actually started collating the cards that I had in my grandfather's storage area, I still will pull out certain players that I had from those teams, from especially my original team, which won the championship against Mike. I still pull cards from that team. And actually, Rob made the suggestion. He said, why don't you get like for every one of your championships, this would be easy for EP since he doesn't have any, but it'd just be blank pages, but like get a binder and just have like all like rookie cards of all your players from your championships and do something cool like that. But I still pull those cards, even the common ones out of, Encore and Ovation and Fleer Tradition, things like that. I'll keep pulling those cards. I have like a long box just filled with commons from some of the players I had in those early days.
I know too, when, you guys have been going through your older cards, just like I have, and you go through and I make a lot of connections to certain players, to certain people that we had in our fantasy leagues. Anytime EP, I see an Albert Connell card, I think of your dad. Like Because I remember your dad coming in and talking about Albert Connell after he had the one, like he beat me, I believe, in a playoff game. Yeah. And Albert Connell had a big game and he was just in there yucking it up. And like I go through these cards and I see Albert Connell and I'm like, oh my God, there it is.
I was going through some old cards and I pulled out your dad's mortal enemy,
Joe
Aska. Or as your dad used to call him, Joe Asshole. He hated that guy. He was a fullback for the Raiders, who I think played one game as a starter randomly as the tailback, and he had like 3 touchdowns and 100 yards. And our buddy Phil beat him. And man, I've never seen your dad so angry
about something like that.
Something he could not control. It's like, you want to lose like that? I'd rather lose like that. It's like God's telling me something. He does not want me to win this game.
Yeah. Oh man.
But I'll see Dave Boston cards. I'll think of the Taters, our buddy Jeff Kelly. They're Chad Johnson. I'll think of our buddy Jazz. I mean, I'll think of different people that had these players throughout the years, and it just kind of sparks a memory,
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll get us started here. I teased it a little bit, but one of my 3 guys I want to throw out there that I collected because of my fantasy football team. This one's going way back. Harvey Williams.
Oh yeah,
Raiders, right? Yes, he was with the Raiders out of LSU. I still have the binder that I had all his cards in. And like he was the first guy I remember PCing at the shop and collecting everyone that came out. Somebody pulled a Harvey Williams card out of a pack. I traded him for it. I gave him another pack for him even. So I have like a ton of Upper Deck rookies, a ton of Stadium Club rookies. I have that whole binder just full of Harvey Williams, waiting for him to make the big time and be able to retire sometime soon.
That Harvey Williams money you're gonna make. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, okay, Joe, yours?
For me, Jeff Blake, man, Shaking Blake. I mean, so he was my starting quarterback in 1996. He was just randomly just good. Like he came out of nowhere a couple of years for Cincinnati, and he was just a really, really fun quarterback. And he had like stud wide receivers to throw to. Like that Cincinnati offense was that was a high powered offense. Carl Pickens, Darnay Scott. I mean, they had a big time team. And he was great for me for the couple of years I had him, and I still find myself going through my collection, and that's a sweet spot, man, for Jeff Blake cards. Was that late 90s, early 2000s? You pull out. He went to the Saints then. I still pulled out some of his Saints cards, but when I got back into the hobby, I went to ComC and started finding Jeff Blake cards on the cheap. Like I got an autograph card. I got a trophy collection pinnacle card of his, which I think is technically his rookie. I mean, I went hog wild. It cost me all of like $8, but like combined for all of them, not just that one. Like you can get him super cheap, but he was just such a fun player because for me, I mean, I didn't draft him. I think I picked him up off of waivers, and he just was on fire then for the rest of the year and then into the next year. So yeah, for me, Jeff Blake is really, really, he's I had a toy made of him. That's how much. I had a custom toy made of Jeff Blake. That's how much I really loved him back in the day.
Imagine if Kajana Carter had stayed healthy. You know what I mean? I think we wouldn't have got hurt like that. I mean, that offense could have been the key to that offense being, one that we still talking about today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
absolutely. Joe, it's funny. Like for some reason, I always picture a Jeff Blake action-packed card. I don't know why.
Yeah,
but for some reason,
it's the
action-packed card is the one that really stands out to me.
It's like Jeff a close-up. He's in his white uniform. He's in his away uniform. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have that one.
I'm sure you do.
Oh yeah.
You have to get the gold card though.
24 karat, baby.
Yeah. All right, EP. How about you?
I think for my first one, it's going to be a little bit different. It's Barry Sanders, who I was collecting some Barry Sanders stuff before, but when I drafted him, I think it was our second year of the league. The first year we did keepers. I remember drafting him, and I was just so ecstatic to get Barry Sanders because he was my favorite player. And there's no doubt in my mind that me having him being on my team also pushed me to buy more Barry Sanders cards, and I have so much I love that I had this player that I love on my team, and I collect his cards. It's just a good synergy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think of Barry Sanders and you,
Yeah.
him being on your team and everything too. Yeah.
We didn't get much of him in our fantasy lives either. I mean, we started in 96 and he retired in 99. It's like, or 98. Yeah. And they still made cards of him in 99 because they thought he was going to play. But yeah, we didn't get much of him for us, but he was awesome.
I do remember I had him the year. I remember we were setting up at the flea market and they were playing Tampa Bay, and there was a game on at the flea market. They had it on the TV, and he had 2 80-yard touchdown runs in the same
ridiculous.
Game. Yeah, I'll never forget that. Yeah, it's so crazy.
My favorite Barry Sanders highlight will always be the Dallas run where the defensive lineman was like spun completely around, and Barry Sanders just ran right, and he stopped. And Sanders ran right behind him. I love that play. Every time it's on, I watch it.
All right, my number 2. This one's going to be a shocker. Fred Taylor.
That's the guy. That's the guy. Yeah, that's the guy.
Fred will forever be connected to me in our fantasy football league. Man, I gave that guy so many chances, and he was good. He was really good, but he couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude would miss games because of a hamstring every year. So frustrating.
Which now is commonplace with running backs, but back then you expected to get like 16 games out of him.
And he was so good. I mean, he had that combination of power and speed that was just the big thing back in the late 90s like that. And boy, I have all kinds of stuff. I have refractors, I have Topps Chrome, I have graded cards, a little bit of everything, but I didn't quite make the big time with Fred Taylor.
That was, by the way, 1998. Awesome, right? You had Payne class. Fred Taylor was like he was the running back of that class. The Topps Chrome is the one I remember. He's kind of like doing a weird like Olay kind of thing. That was a really cool card.
Great
for me. It was the Fleer Ultra one with him in his Florida uniform. That's such a really cool one. And literally every time I see a Fred Taylor card, I think I'm like, literally, there's no doubt about it. Like he's the Fred Taylor.
He was my guy.
Connected forever. Yep.
I still pulled them when I first got into it. Mike Sky, I have all these. I don't need any more Fred Taylor cards, buddy. I appreciate it. I'm good.
Yeah. Maybe a couple too many.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, you're number 2.
My number 2 was my first ever fantasy pick, and he actually ironically wasn't on my team very long because, like Mike with retail, I get the itch to trade. Man, I get the itch. I need to trade. I took him, I want to say 6 overall, hail to Pitt, Curtis Martin, when he was with the New England Patriots. So I still collect his cards. I generally do it in his Pitt uniform, obviously, but if I see a cool Curtis Martin card, I generally don't sell it. I generally, I have the 3x3 Stadium Club card of his I kept. I have a couple of cool inserts I kept. Not like they're going for big bucks anyway, but he was, I mean, ironically, EP, he could have been on your list. He might be on your list. Is he on your list?
He's not on my list, but he's one of my guys. Yeah, he's one of my guys. Yeah.
I have a special affinity to him because he was my first pick and he went to Pitt, but I know he was on EP's team for a long, long time because EP doesn't trade and he is loyal to a fault. So I know EP has a lot of love for.
He doesn't win and he doesn't trade.
He doesn't win. He doesn't trade.
And that will continue.
But both of those things will continue. Yep. But yeah, Curtis Martin, I again, another guy, when I got back into the hobby, I pulled out some because sadly, we call it the pesky little fire. Sadly, Curtis Martin was in that first wave of cards that I had before I had a house fire, and I lost all of those. So I didn't have any left. I have the commons that would come up when I'm going through my stuff now, but like I had a bunch of his rookie stuff, and I know Mike, you gave me, I think his Mirror Gold or his Select rookie card, and so I bought his Skybox Impact card where he's in his Pitt uniform and things like that. So I'll still pull Curtis Martin cards if they're cool. Again, I probably only had him for like 6 to 8 games, and then I traded him to Rob Fagard's uncle, I believe, or no, Butch Feaster. I mean, I'm throwing out all these names, but I traded
Somebody
for Joey Galloway. I
Oh,
traded him
okay.
and got Joey Galloway, and then I found a random stash of Joey Galloway rookies. I'm like, why do I have these Joey Galloway rookies? Ah, that's right. I collected him too because of Martin.
Hey, I have a Joey Galloway rookie for you if you want it. So
Is it action packed? I think
no, it's not. It's I think the Summit, but it was the parallel version of the Summit, like the shiny foil.
wow.
They're pretty
Yes.
cool. They are
In
pretty
a
cool.
it is in a screw down too, so it's well protected.
Meanwhile,
Nice.
I think I traded Joey Galloway then a couple of weeks after I traded.
Yeah, probably.
I had a problem.
Yeah, a little bit.
And I ended up with Joey Galloway. That was that deal. The deal with Baylor, where I got Galloway and Michael Irvin. I think for I must have got a tight end too for like Andre Rison and
I feel it was Shannon
Jeff
Sharp.
George.
for
Shannon
some
Sharp.
reason.
I
It
got
was
Shannon
yeah,
Sharp
well,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, Shannon
Yeah.
Sharp. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got it. That was a
He
really good
still
deal.
did
That was,
win.
one deal.
that was a
EP
really
one
good.
deal.
That was a really good deal. I stopped after that.
All right, your second player, EP.
Oh man, we've talked so much about 1999,
Gotta love 1990.
and
Yeah.
I think you guys probably know where I'm going. Donovan McNabb.
Ooh.
Oh, he
I
was your
don't
boy.
have. I do not have as many Donovan McNabb cards as Mike, but I bet you I have more than a lot of people.
more than
More
even
than
in, like,
any
more than
Giants
even in, like,
fan
Philadelphia.
has.
More than a Giants fan should be allowed
Yeah,
to
That's
have
a
one.
good point.
Like I have
Yeah.
I have a lot of Donovan McNabb cards. don't think I've sold any of them from 1999 or I pulled them all of them out from the next couple of years. And so McNabb is
He was really good.
He
Like
was
he
really
really
good.
was.
Like,
He had a
he
good
was
run
the-
won
there.
that Super Bowl.
Mhm.
like
You know,
him
which
and
had a
Brian
whole
Westbrook.
different conversation.
He was like the only person on offense, and they got Terrell Owens when they went to that Super Bowl that year. But I mean, like for a long time, they had that awesome defense, and he was pretty much the only star on offense.
Yeah, he gets a
Ironically,
bad rap.
two of the players I think of most with you with fantasy football after Curtis Martin is Donovan McNabb
Mhm.
and Deshaun Jackson.
Mm.
And both
Yep.
of them were Eagles, and you're a huge Giants fan, so I always
Yeah.
found that hilarious.
I learned very early on, don't
you
ever
beat
draft,
me from
Don't-
Deshaun Jackson beating the Giants
don't
in a playoff
trade,
game.
don't trade, don't draft, and don't trade for players on your favorite team. So just this point,
Yeah.
don't do it.
Especially if they're the Giants.
Listen. All I gotta say is Eli Manning.
Daniel Jones,
Eli Manning beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl, so that's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
different
Well,
podcast.
Eli Manning doesn't always
Podcast.
play in the Super Bowl. When he does, he beats Tom Brady.
Okay, well, moving on. My final, I'm going to give an honorable mention to James Stewart because I have
yes.
a ton of James Stewart.
What's with
cards.
you and Jaguars running backs?
I
Yeah.
know. Well, he was my next guy after Fred Taylor, but he's not my number 3. I don't know if you guys know it, but Patrick Jeffers.
I have a
Yes.
couple of his rookies for you, Mike, if you need them.
Patrick Jeffers. I found looking through my stuff, my stash of like numbered cards, rookie cards, low serial number cards, autographs. I have an autographics. We were talking about that earlier today at the card shop. I have one of those of him. I mean, the guy was fantastic for 1 year until he tore his knee up. But wow, I have a lot of really cool stuff. Like it is really cool stuff I have in the collection, but yeah, pretty much worthless now. But Patrick Jeffers is definitely my number 3. I had a great run with him for that 1 year, but
He was great,
Boy.
really good. Yeah.
he was really
Yeah.
good. That whole team was crazy on offense that year, but unfortunately, that was the only year. But I have some great cards.
I was going through a random stack of cards and like old PC cards, I guess, and I came across like the Fleer Tradition Patrick Jeffers rookie, and they weren't rookies. He was like third-year cards, but he
Yeah.
never had a rookie
Yeah.
year card. So yeah, I found a bunch of them too. Nowhere near as much as you do, but
No.
yeah, I don't think many people do.
Probably not, but hey, if anybody is looking for any Patrick Jeffers cards, hit me up in the comments. I will help you out. Or Harvey Williams, or Fred Taylor, or James Stewart.
How dare you let
I'd
Fred
be
Taylor go?
covered.
Yeah,
How dare you let Fred Taylor
Well,
go?
I have
You
my
have,
PC.
you have
stack.
duplicates? Okay.
Yes. I do. I have a lot. of
Triplicates,
duplicates.
quadruple kits.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, Joe, you're number
Right.
3.
My last one. I'm going to give a quick honorable mention to Warren Moon. I don't have a lot of his stuff, and I only really had him for a couple of years as an active player, but we have this mythos in our League One that, we have these fake GMs sometimes, and Warren Moon is my GM of my team. There's this whole mythology about it. He writes, I know. I need to get him to do a cameo, right? He runs my team, and he does articles for our league website. So Warren Moon is published all over the internet on RT
pop
Sports,
culture icon.
Icon.
Yes.
So I have a few of his cards, but for me, when I collected him, he was, it was when he was a Seahawk, so it was only like a year to 2 years where he had actual cards. My number one, Mike, hate to do it, my man, Bert Emanuel.
No.
The amount of comic cards I have of that man.
Okay, story time.
Picture it. Imagine the greatest team ever put together.
He is not joking.
I am not joking.
Wait a minute. Let me get comfortable.
27 years I have been playing fantasy football. I've never seen a better team put together than Mike had in 1996.
Who was the backup quarterback?
His backup quarterback was Brett Favre, wasn't it? Or was it Steve Young? He had both.
You got to pick each week. You got to pick each week.
He had Emmitt Smith. He had Barry Sanders. He had Chris Warren, I believe. You had Ben Coates and Shannon Sharp at tight end. You had, was it Chris Carter, Carl Pickens, Michael Irvin, and Jerry Rice?
No, Herman Moore,
but you definitely had Jerry Rice.
Yeah, and Jerry Rice.
And then
and Jerry Rice.
You've got the 18-0 Patriots rolling in against the team that I think that I could have been a part of, the 1996 Berlin Bombers, with Jeff Blake, aforementioned, Bam Morris, fresh out of the Texas Penal League, right? Marshall Faulk before he was the greatest show on turf.
Just get on with it.
Darnay Scott, Wesley Walls.
It's okay, Joe. Keep going.
And my man.
We don't need to rehash.
Long story short, Mike played the wrong player because he had too many good players, and Bert Emanuel went off for over 100 yards and a touchdown. We had multiple players that had less than 5 points. Like, it was just a terrible, terrible game. But I ended up pulling the win out, and ever since then, Bert Emanuel and I have kind of been synonymous. I actually bought a PSA 10 SP Bert Emanuel rookie card, which PSA mislabeled Brett Emanuel, by the way. Just throwing that out there. If I can't make fun of PSA, it's not a video. I have so many copies of Bert Emanuel just laying around. I think I'm going to start sending them to Mike as Christmas gifts and things like that. But yeah. Bert Emanuel, it's just one of those, you can talk about Tom Brady collecting high dollar cards and things like that. But no, for me, it's like when I pull those commons of Bert Emanuel, I look at him and I just have a big smile on my face.
I have two things to say. One,
I think we're out of time.
One, I have like 50 Bert Emanuel rookie cards waiting for you that I pulled that I just found. And two, I'm going to edit out all that stuff about me losing right here. There, I'm fine. We're all good.
I think
just making sure it's a really
fun.
bad edit so people know it was edited out.
Yeah.
By the way, too, a couple years later, they actually made a rule called the Bert Emanuel rule about what a catch is. So then for years, Mike had to hear whenever ESPN would talk about whether something's a catch or not, he had to hear, the Bert Emanuel rule. Let's describe who Bert Emanuel is. It was Bert.
I hate Bert Emanuel. No offense to Bert Emanuel, but I hate you. If you're watching, I'm sorry, but I hate you.
I think
nothing personal.
Nothing personal. Nothing personal. But I'm pretty sure you.
He sells women's athletic wear now.
Since 1996. Yes. Not going to stop. Sorry.
Former quarterback from Rice.
Oh, I don't care.
He wasn't even a wide receiver.
Nobody cares.
He came in.
Going to cut it all out anyway.
All right, EP, yours?
All right, EP. Wrap us up here, buddy.
My honorable mention is Russell Wilson, who's currently on my team, and I don't have a ton of his stuff, but I do have a decent number of his cards. I'm going to try to get a few more. Of course, want to get a couple in his Broncos uniform.
By the way, John at UConn Cards and Comics, Montana, PA, has an autographed rookie of him. I'm just saying. If
I did
you
see.
want
I did
one,
see it.
it's right
I
there.
saw it. I
There
saw it
you go.
today. I saw it. I did see it.
There you go. Get it.
My number one. When Joe, when you're about to say, I think, but my second guy that was on my team, I thought you're going to say this guy. You know him, you love him, Jamal Anderson.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's an Ennies. That's definitely one of my
Yep.
guys. Yep. And yeah, he was. I mean, he had a really great career, not a Hall of Fame career, obviously, but
30 bird EP.
Yep. I don't dance.
He's
But-
trying 30
but-
bird force EP.
But like
That'd
that
be
team,
fantastic.
I think when I had him on that team, that was one of my best teams ever. I had him and Terrence Mathis.
He went
and
to
I
the
had their kicker,
championship.
Yep, and it was a really fun time. And so obviously when you got a guy like that who's a key cog, like you're going to collect somebody like that. And
He has a great rookie card too. His SP rookie card is really, really nice. That's one I have it in a screw down, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah, good
something really low numbered of his too. I forget what it was. If I come across it, I'll put it aside for you. But
nice.
yeah, Jamal Anderson, totally you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was
he's
a
one of my
that was a
players.
guy like for 2 years. He was just like 2
Yeah.
or 3 years. They were just
Yep.
on fire.
Another
with him.
guy that a knee injury
Mhm.
kind of threw off his whole career. So
Yeah.
things weren't quite as easy to come back from back then as they are now. So, all right, guys. Well, that was a great trip down memory lane. You know, if
Well, most of it
anybody
was for
watching,
Mike.
nobody's going to see that. Going to cut it all out. But yeah, if anybody's watching that plays fantasy football and collect people, let us know in the comments, please.
Yeah, for sure.
Share with us.
Yeah.
We love to talk about this kind of stuff, obviously. So,
Yeah.
hey guys, another great chat, and we'll be back next week. Take care, guys.
See you,
Adios.
boys.